Saudi Arabia and Iran-backed Houthi rebels were very close to striking a peace deal in Yemen. Talks were going on, and a successful deal would have witnessed a new dawn of peace in the region. And then, in a shocking coincidence, the US imposed sanctions on the rebel group. The US said it was acting to punish Houthis for their attacks in the Red Sea and beyond. Now, as soon as the sanctions were placed and missile strikes were conducted by the US in Yemen, the budding peace deal between Houthis and Saudi Arabia also got sabotaged. Now, the Biden administration is being accused of deliberately blocking the peace deal and dragging Saudi Arabia into the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. Before moving on, let's take a look at Yemen's map. The nation is split in half. The western region is controlled by Houthi rebels. They have close ties to Iran, and Iran is traditionally an arch rival of Saudi Arabia, while the rest of the country is governed by Arab allies. It is important to note that the fighting between these two groups has been going on for a decade, and almost 500,000 people have lost their lives. As per the New York Times, Saudi Arabia has had enough of the war and it now wants to call it quits. Over the past 2 years, the fighting had largely stopped in Yemen. Saudi Arabia began direct talks with the Houthis in an effort to extract itself from the war, and diplomatic efforts were intensified to resolve the conflict. In late December last year, the UN Special Envoy for Yemen announced that the rival parties had taken a significant step towards ending the war. And then the ongoing Israel-Hamas war expanded, and Houthis started attacking ships in the Red Sea, and then the US imposed sanctions on the Iran-backed group.
That's right, the United States officially designating the Houthis as a terror organization. This follows, as you were mentioning, a spate of attacks by the Iran-backed militants on ships in the Red Sea, commercial ships.
But how do these sanctions impact the peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Houthis? The US sanctions blocked the payment of public sector workers living in Houthi-controlled Yemen, who have gone without pay for years. The payment of civil workers has been a key demand of the Houthis and is part of the first phase of the peace deal. So, simply put, no payment of salaries means no peace deal. The first phase of the peace deal would also fully open Yemen's airports and seaports that have been under blockade since 2015. Now, that plan has also been sabotaged. Now, some might argue that punishing Houthis is also important because they have been carrying out attacks in the Red Sea and openly threatening global shipping routes. To punish Houthis, US carried out several missile attacks on Yemeni soil. And at that time, Saudi Arabia had asked the US not to escalate tensions in the region and instead focus on ending the war in Hamas. But Uncle Sam paid no heed to these calls. However, there is this big silver lining. Despite the new US bombing campaign in Yemen, the Saudis and Houthis still appear very much eager to hammer out a peace deal. Meanwhile, Biden has admitted that the bombing campaign in Yemen is not yielding the desired results. The thing is, if Joe Biden really wanted to rein in the Houthis, punish them with missiles, he could have done this without invoking sanctions and without jeopardizing peace deal between Houthis and Saudi Arabia. But no, Biden and the military-industrial complex really need the war to keep going, to keep the inflow of cash intact and maintain dependency of Arabs on the US security umbrella. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Subscribe outright for more insights.